Oh, fuck. Ugh. I don't want to make this video. I feel like I have to. Okay. God is a bit of a touchy subject. And a part of why God is so controversial is because even though people live their lives and literally form their core identity around the religiously described God, this is the type of God that people have killed for, died for, and lived for, all based on personal beliefs about certain aspects of our reality. And when debated down to its roots, it always kind of comes down to something kind of ambiguous and really philosophically and emotionally subjective. And as a species, we've really only begun to reach the early stages of evidence of the interconnected nature of our reality itself through the study of quantum physics and quantum mechanics, and broadly just consciousness as a whole, the different systems that kind of hold our reality in place and allow us to have these profound interconnected experiences. And so regardless of whether you believe in God in the traditional sense, or if you've kind of cultivated your own unique relationship and philosophy about our existence, it is pretty undeniable at this point that we live in a very intricate and magical reality that has been woven together in a way that by definition we could say is divine. It's been shown that for those of us who regularly connect with and recognize this aspect of our existence on a deep level, we tend to have significantly higher resilience in stressful situations and generally approach life with a more lightheartedness and also a heightened awareness of our purpose here on Earth. In my personal definition, God is the literal fabric of reality, not some sort of conscious being who dishes out self-help books like there's no tomorrow. The Bible, the Quran, the Vedas, etc. In other words, God, in my eyes, is quite literally the infinite fractal of existence itself, and that is it. That's it. And as ironic as it is, sometimes the raw simplicity of that belief really pisses some people off. And that belief and that perspective of mine also encompasses the idea that the absolute darkness and the absolute light of our reality are God. Most people tend to focus on the side of God that's only light, the savior, the healer, and the giver, without embracing the idea that the suffering and the darkness that we experience is also a part of God and a core part of our existence as a teacher, as a growth inducer, and also as a general balancer. Now, we can try and think our way out of it all that we want, but at the end of the day, nobody on Earth is spared from suffering. Nobody, not even the greatest of saints, are free of suffering. And so we'll often call the dark side of God the devil or Satan or Lucifer. Many of us human beings will treat this dark side of God as separate from the whole, kind of like how most of us like to disassociate and separate from the darkness within ourselves. We don't like to look at it because it's uncomfortable, it's icky, and it makes us feel bad. But there is a cost to not being willing to look at our own darkness. And I'll put it like this. If we bury our heads up our asses, we may not be able to see shit, but we're still surrounded by shit. That was a good one, right? That was a good one. So my question to you, do you think that it's possible that we romanticize this idea of eternal happiness and bliss because we cannot face this reality that suffering gives life depth and meaning? It gives us contrast. Maybe we're just entertainment junkies, and that's all existence is really about, creating something that makes us feel alive and connected so that we can savor and really experience life itself. And when I think about that, there's really no greater story that could be told than the story of the life that we're living right here, right now. I think it's time that I tell you the story about when I met God, in my eyes, and also how it helped me find peace around my own personal suffering. So when I was 18, I was depressed as fuck. I didn't really have any deep or meaningful purpose in my life that I was aware of, and I was definitely living more along the lines of the life of an NPC, to say the least. Watching porn, smoking weed, playing video games, and watching memes excessively to the point where my dopamine receptors literally crumbled down from overuse into the size of raisins, or whatever the equivalent is on the micro scale that they actually are. I wasn't exactly what anyone would consider spiritual, but I was always interested in understanding my reality more deeply, and I was open to having my beliefs challenged if somebody could make a good enough argument for them to be challenged. And so, before I get into the story too deep, full disclaimer, I was 100% sober during this experience I'm about to share with you. So, it was March 15th, 2015. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was alone watching YouTube videos on the blind spots in human history and consciousness, and I'm just chilling. I'm sitting and ruthlessly neglecting my circadian rhythm until all of a sudden this wave of sensation and energy just comes over my whole body. And it was like my soul had just been partially removed from my body. And so I looked around me, and for the first time in my life, on a conscious level, I felt like everything was perfect. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to be anyone. I didn't have to be anything. And in that moment, a part of me let go and surrendered into the most simple and graceful form of existence that I had ever experienced. And I could hear the wind outside and the rustling of the leaves, the hum of the fans from my computer, the buzz of the electronics. And if death were to come in this moment, I would have felt okay. It would have felt just like a continuation of that experience that I was having. But in that moment, I felt alive. In fact, I felt the most alive I had ever felt in my whole life. And everything around me felt like it was filled with that same energy of aliveness. And the suffering I had experienced in my life, the suffering I had caused, it was known to me in that moment that everything was perfect and that life was as it was meant to be. The darkness and the light in this eternal battle for balance and harmony. And it was in that moment I was forgiven by myself for being human, for being messy, for giving into my own darkness at times. The weight of life was lifted off of me, and I felt at peace. And in my mind, in my eyes, this was nothing short of a miracle. And that state, the state of total surrender and peace, in my opinion, is what being close to the light side of God feels like. It could literally dissolve your identity if you stay around it for too long, because everything lets go. Everything lets go. And the longer you stay there, the better that it feels. And I think that it's a place that we need to visit often. And so this awakened a compassion and an understanding and a connectedness inside of me that it changed my life forever. Every day became different from that day forward. And so what really changed for me after all of this is that now when I'm faced with challenges, they all feel less heavy, and I'm able to navigate them with more grace. I found myself just naturally wanting to take better care of myself and devote myself to just generally being a better person and being a part of the world in a way that my heart was beckoning me. It was calling me out into the world to be, to express as. And it was just what brought me to my own inner harmony. And so it's been about 10 years since this experience. And I would not be here making this video were it not for everything that I just shared with you. Making videos like this used to be fucking scary for me. And even before this video, I may keep it in, I may not, but it's scary. And this connection that I have to my own life now goes beyond it in strength, goes beyond my fear. And it allows me to do things like this without getting too caught up in the fear and the worry and the paranoia. And in the end, I think what connecting with that state of my own existence really did for me, the state where I feel most people could pretty comfortably say that that is when they met God. It showed me that all of my suffering, even though it really fucking sucks sometimes, and it can be a really hard pill to swallow, that it is only temporary, and that no matter how much pain I go through, everything is going to be okay. And eventually I'll be back in balance, and I will find my way back to harmony. It instilled a sense of connectedness and fearlessness to live and express into this life fully and as powerfully as I could, knowing that no matter what path I take, that I am in the hands of some broader universal harmony, and that everything is okay. And honestly, there's really no better feeling that I've personally experienced other than being your full, unhindered, authentic self, being around people who really resonate with that, knowing that you're supporting them in finding themselves and living their best life. And don't get me wrong, like I still have my own hindrances, my own, fears that come up and stuff like that, but my awareness of these things has never been more clear than they are now. And so I've become more accepting of the pain in my life and the understanding of the fact that even though I'll do my best to minimize how much pain I cause both to myself and to others, that life is suffering and bliss combined. And I can't prevent the people I love from getting hurt or from them hurting me. And that's okay. It's just a part of life, and it's just a part of being human. And so even after all of this, something that you got to understand is that even though this experience was very powerful, it didn't guarantee any sort of change in my life. It was a spark for change, but it could have easily have drifted away just like a fart in the wind if I didn't make a conscious choice to follow this path and figure out how to navigate it. And so I've put together some of the most powerful tools and the key understandings that really helped me stay on this path. And so I just finished putting it together into a short book called Living Ruthlessly Aligned. That gives you the tools and the systems that I've been designing for the past 10 years that are basically just like power tools for deepening your awareness. Go ahead and head down to the link in the description to check it out. While you're down there, feel free to like the video if you're enjoying. I'm gonna give you a quick piece of advice now so that you don't end up letting the inspiration from this video drift away like a fart in the wind. So every day that you wake up, you're going to feel different. You're gonna feel good, you're gonna feel bad, you're gonna feel scared, you're gonna feel empowered. It's gonna be a constant fluctuation depending on the day. And so if you wanna keep this kind of connection to your life that I was describing, this connection to spirit, this connection to God alive inside of you, it needs to become a priority for you. And the reminders and the practices that keep it alive for you personally need to be not just uncovered, but also practiced. As with anything, literally succeeding in any aspect of life, it takes consistency, it takes investment, it takes focus. And so the thing about that though, is that it all gets easier in time. Small investments lead to big change over time. And so less energy is needed, less focus, less willpower. Habits are gonna go both ways, both good and bad. And so if you find yourself slipping, remember why you want to cultivate this connection in the first place. It could be because you're sick of suffering and feeling hopeless. It could be because you're sick of feeling lost and are overwhelmed by the weight of life. Regardless of what it is, just make sure that you dedicate the time to connect with yourself and that aspect of yourself and connect with your why on a deep level. Regardless of why you want this for yourself, make sure that you connect with your why deeply. Whatever that reason is, that it's stronger than the darkness that tries to overtake your mind in times of silence, in times where you're alone, in times when you know that you're gonna start feeling some of that pressure to give in to your old ways. Now, it's easier to dilute salt water with pure water than it is to remove the salt from the water itself. And so the darkness inside of you will always exist, but it's up to you to make sure that the pure water, in this case, or the light, is stronger than it. So, like this video if you enjoyed. Until next time.